You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J. Loureiro.
Uplevel Your Online Business Show. Today's episode is absolutely epic. It's with the incredible Shelsey Kerr, intuitive money mindset coach and owner of the Left-Brained Hippie. I'm especially excited to have Shelsey on the podcast today because she's been one of my own personal coaches that has really helped me surpass all of my money mindset issues to finally be able to transform into the woman who has the type of business that I have today. I also wanted to make a quick mention here that this episode is going to be audio only just because we felt that that would be the best to not have any connection issues that were going on either of our ends. Are you ready? Grab a pen and start to really integrate all of the juicy stuff that Shelsey is about to share with us on the show today. And we are on. You guys, I am so excited about our guest today, Shelsey Jarvis. She is amazing. She has worked with me personally before, me as her client. And I'm really, really excited to get started today. How are you, Shelsey?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good, good. Super excited. Very high energy right now.
Me too.
Yay. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of background on Shelsey, and then she can kind of talk a little bit about what she does. But Shelsey is an intuitive money mindset coach for entrepreneurs looking to grow their income without sacrificing fun and flow. So throughout her sessions with her clients and kind of all the programs that she has, she really looks into tapping into your intuitive stories and beliefs about money and really rewriting them. Isn't that right, Shelsey?
Yes, I would definitely agree with that.
Awesome. And so Shelsey has some really, really amazing stories, really amazing breakthroughs that she's made throughout the past few years. She actually just moved from Montreal, so from like a little apartment in Montreal to this amazing location in Vancouver.
No, it's in BC, but it's nowhere near Vancouver, actually. We're like 8 hours from Vancouver.
Oh,
but we're up in the Kootenay Mountains, which is BC's best kept secret. So don't tell anybody.
And I remember just a few months ago, Shelsey, actually, you did like a video of these like bears coming into your backyard and you and your kids when like looking at this and being like, how incredible is this?
Yes, we had grizzly bears in our backyard, which sounds really scary, but it was actually really hilarious because we do live in bear country. I joke that BC stands for bear country. We live on a mountain. So this was, I feel like it was shortly after the wildfire season. So, animals were kind of displaced all over the place. And, so we got home from our kids' swimming lessons one day. We pull into the driveway and our neighbors are standing at their fence and they're yelling at us like, the bears are in your backyard. And we're just like, oh crap. So, we grab the kids and run inside the house, safety. And we run to look out the back windows of our house, and we have this little inflatable pool, and there was a baby grizzly bear playing in our pool, and it was just the funniest, most cute thing. And yeah, there were 3 bears, and one of them was just having a great old time in the pool until they noticed that we were watching, and then they ran away.
That was so funny to even just watch. Like, it must just feel so, so different. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that move and what inspired you to do it?
Yeah, sure. So, I lived in Montreal for 13 years, and I moved there, let's see, I guess it would have been in 2005. I was just barely into my 20s and, didn't know squat about life yet, and just kind of moved there on a whim, literally on a whim. I went there one weekend, and 2 weeks later, I was actually moved there. Like, I wasn't messing around. Like, I literally just had decided, you know what, I feel like moving to Montreal. And since I was unattached and in my early 20s, no relationships, no kids, I was able to do that pretty easily. But this time around, because it was, first of all, a much larger move, Plus, there's my husband and kids involved this time. I couldn't just, pick up on a whim, move across the country with basically no belongings. Like, obviously there's a lot more to it this time around. And this is the stage in life where a lot of people say, oh, I wish I could do something like that, or I wish that was possible for me. And I'm not going to lie and say it was easy because it definitely brought up a lot of stuff. But we decided in August of, 2017, that was when we decided, okay, BC is where we're moving. We love BC. We had just taken a trip there. We loved it, fell in love with the place. And so in the whole process, it took about a year, almost a year, to fully complete the process of the move from that moment of decision to actually living in the house, the full manifestation of it. And during that time, it definitely brought up, here's the thing, when you make a decision in life about anything that you want, everything that's within you that's incompatible with what you say you want is going to start coming up. So, if you decide that you want to do a cross-country move because you're looking for, a sense of inner peace and quiet and freedom, well, anything that is incompatible with those things is going to start coming up in your life for you to deal with and, and break the patterns. So that was really what happened through that process. It was largely making peace with where I was in Montreal. Let me give an example, a more concrete example of how this played out. We decided, like I said, in August of 2017 that we wanted to move to BC. Now, I was initially so in a rush to make it happen that we ended up finding a house online and, just a house for rent. We weren't looking to buy. And so we found this house for rent. It looked great. The pictures looked great. I talked to the dude on the phone and he said, great, it's yours if you want it. And so he sent us the paperwork to fill in. And as it turns out, it was a scam. I sent in my paper and I immediately got this just horrible feeling in my stomach. Like I as soon as I told my husband that we got it, like I was not happy about it. I was like, something is wrong. And immediately right then my mom called me. She was just like, don't take that house. I don't know why. I'm not trying to like hold you back or anything. I really support this move, but just like, don't take that house. There's something wrong. And like, so both of our intuitions were just like on fire about this. And so that was when I did a little bit of Googling around and I discovered that it was a scam. And the whole lesson that I took from that was stop trying to force it. Stop trying to get out of the situation you're in now. And, stop using, it was a really powerful lesson in just relaxing and allowing this move to kind of come to me in a way. And instead of trying to force it and spending all my free time online and, saying like, we have to be moved before winter. Cause that was kind of my goal. Like, I don't want to spend another Montreal winter. Like, get me out of here before winter. Because winters are horrible in Montreal. If you don't know, like right now, as we speak, it's like -4 degrees here Celsius. And it's like -40 or 50 over there. Like, it's just awful. It's so bad. So I was really invested in getting myself out and away from the situation instead of making peace with where I was and allowing the details of this move kind of come to me in the perfect timing. And so once I learned that lesson and I relaxed into it and just said, you know what? If this is our last winter, that's great. If it's not, maybe we have to be here 3 more years. Who knows? But I would rather let things come in their perfect timing than try to force it and get scammed in the process or, whatever other bad things could happen. So I started to just relax into it and say, you know what? I'm just going to make the best of it. I'm here right now. I'm not moving today. So today I'm just going to decide to have a good time with it. And once I started to do that, after, probably halfway through the winter, shortly after Christmas, the details started to fill themselves in. The details started to become more clear. We started to get more clarity on where we wanted to live and what we were looking for and what was a must-have for us and what, didn't matter so much. And, when we did find this house online, it was nowhere near where we thought we were going to live initially. It was nowhere near Vancouver, but I said, that's our house. I looked at it online. I was like, that's our house. I just know it. And we came to visit in May to check out the house, and we ended up signing the lease that night because I was like, this is our house. It's amazing for us. It feels amazing. And everything just kind of started working out once I allowed it to.
Beautiful. I love that. And I can totally relate to, even with my international move. We were trying to force so many things so hard until one day we were kind of like, you know what? Let's just kind of drop everything and see how the pieces land.
Mm-hmm.
And then it so happened that my husband's sister was like, hey, we have this abandoned house at the back of the farm. It's completely fallen apart, but why don't we just fix that house for you guys? Because we were so into like needing to have a house built before we even got here.
Yeah.
And we decided to just, let go of all of those houses. Like we still live in the abandoned house because the abandoned house is perfectly fine for the both of us. It's actually the same size as our Toronto 1-bedroom apartment. So it's just really incredible how much you can just allow things to kind of fall into place, especially for me as a doer. And I know that you're a doer too. This is like a huge part of the process, right? And I know that this is also a lot about what you ultimately teach and kind of how you've learned this yourself and how you've been able to grow your business from all of these principles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, making peace with where you are and allowing is so hard for people who tend to be, overachievers and, not even just overachievers, but people as a society, we kind of grow up learning like you've got to do and work hard and all this. And it's not to say that it won't take any action. Like, of course it's going to take action, but, there's so little that we can really accomplish through action alone. Whereas if we just allow the sparks of creativity to come first, instead of trying to think our way through everything, it all just becomes so much more easy, and things just kind of fill themselves in around you. Kind of like if you look around you right now, the furniture that you see or what you see looking out the window, like if you look around, it feels like things just kind of filled themselves in around you. Like stuff just kind of accumulated and the details just kind of filled themselves in somehow. And we tend to perceive money, for example, as this big, but that's harder to receive. That's harder for it to fill in around you. And no, it's not. It just depends on what frequency you're on. It's science, it's physics. The details that fill in around you are perfectly compatible with the frequency that you're maintaining on a consistent basis.
Exactly. I love that. And I know that that's a huge part of everything that you are now sharing with the world, which is beautiful. And I remember, because I'm on all of your email lists and all the stuff that you said. I love it. But I remember there was this one post that you shared that was all about, how you went from buskering in Montreal and to now own, like an incredibly sustainable, I think it's a 6-figure business by now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, totally lights you up, totally helps you transform other people's lives. Like, what do you really feel like you needed to do in terms of your own money mindset, in terms of your own life, to help you to kind of go from that woman who's buskering on the streets and really just trying to make things work all the time and didn't really have peace with her money journey to where you are now?
Yeah. So to give some context for those who didn't see that post, basically about 3 years ago now, like only 3 years ago, I can't believe it's only been 3 years, but 3 years ago, I was still, in order to fill in the gaps, because I was on maternity leave, with my daughter and, only making about 55% of my income. Because that's, if any Americans are listening, they're probably thinking like that we're really lucky to have that. And you'd be right. But yes, I was making only 55% of my income because I was on maternity leave, and my maternity leave was going by really fast. And I did not want to go back to work. So, in order to fill in the gaps in our income, because my husband had a job, but it wasn't like a super good paying job. You know, it was a little more than minimum wage, I think. You know, it wasn't great. So we were really struggling to get by. And I would go busk on the weekends in the metro stations just to, you know, get a $30 here, 50, $60 there. You know, it was never big amounts of money, but you know, I would take that money and go to the dollar store to get us some groceries. I usually didn't busk unless I had to, because especially in the winter, because it was so cold. But I did what I had to do. And looking back, there was one day that I was in the dollar store. I even have a picture. I was going through pictures over the weekend, and I found the picture that I took that day of my groceries, of the groceries that I had in my cart at the dollar store. Because I vowed to myself in that moment, I was like, never again. Like I was like, I'm 32 years old. Why am I still feeding my family with, you know, $30 of groceries from the dollar store? Like that made me so mad. Like that made me so angry. I was like, why do I not have more figured out by now? You know, I think we all thought that by the age of 30, we'd have so much figured out. And I was just mad that that wasn't true. That wasn't the case. And so in that moment, I made a decision, like, something's got to change here. This is not okay. This is not my life. Whose life is this? And, you know, as much as I wish I could say that was the last time that I ever had to go to the dollar store for groceries, you know, things started changing very soon after that. Within a couple of months, I, you know, started my VA business. I was able to quit my full-time job. You know, things started really looking up from there, but I do trace everything back to that decision of like, screw this. Like this is not my life. This is not how I want to live. And I'm going to start doing something different right now. And that was when I really started taking it more seriously, my money mindset work, and, you know, doing EFT tapping and really diving into all of this inner work. And like I said, it only took a couple of months before things started to really drastically change. So I mean, this stuff works. And you asked, like, what did it take? What kind of shifts did it take in order to kind of, I don't want to use the word complete that shift, but to shift from where I was 3 years ago to where I was now? I think the biggest thing, two things, it's kind of twofold. One was a willingness to actively do the work and not just wait for life to happen to me. My husband and I had a conversation about this yesterday, because I've been actively doing mindset work for years. So the first thing is a willingness to do this mindset work actively, as opposed to allowing life to happen to me and then reacting to it. So what I mean by that is I had a conversation with my husband about this yesterday, because I've been actively doing this mindset work for a few years, and he does it when life happens to him and, you know, he wants to break a pattern. So it's kind of, you know, it starts out as a knee-jerk reaction and then realizing like, oh, crap, this means that I need to do some inner work. Whereas, you know, I have been doing it more actively. So the universe doesn't necessarily have to throw so much crap my way in order to get me to learn the lessons, because I'm willing to tune into myself and look for the more subtle cues that there's inner work to be done, rather than waiting for things to explode in my face. Because, you know, there's the saying, I think they use the word God in the saying, but you could substitute it with universe or God or whatever you're comfortable with. But the universe only whispers for so long before it shouts. And
I love it.
Yeah. So when you are willing to look for the subtle cues that something is off, that something is not in alignment, that you are not in alignment with what you want, then you're able to address it before it gets to be too big and harder to quote unquote fix, so to speak. And the other thing that really helped was being willing to listen to those bigger things and look at them as lessons, instead of taking the victim mentality that I always took my whole life and saying, why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. Like, I don't have any control over this. And being willing to really take responsibility and look at it from a perspective of, okay, this happened in my life. how am I going to choose to deal with this? How am I going to choose to look at this? And by taking that full responsibility, that empowered me. And I no longer felt at the mercy of everything and everyone else in the world. And when you feel more empowered, you make more empowered choices. And when you make more empowered choices, that gets reflected back to you in the form of more money, more love, more respect. Everything that you're putting out there gets reflected back to you.
I love that. And that's something that I talk about a lot with my community, is the whole like shifting from victim mode to empowerment is just so beneficial for every single area of your life. And I like to think of it as a nice fine balance, because sometimes it's victim mode. And then on the other side of that, sometimes it's even ego, like just like so much ego. And then when you reach the sweet spot kind of in the middle, that's where all of the magic happens. That's where you can create that inspired action. And I really, one of the things that I really love about your story that I feel like I really resonate with, and a lot of my clients would really resonate with as well, is the fact that like, for a lot of people, we all have our own money mindset issues, right? And this is exactly what you help people with. But for a lot of people, we have this whole perception of the fact that money, like lots of money, can only happen or can only be accumulated by people who already come from money, right? So it's this whole dynamic of, I need to come from money in order for me to create money. If I don't come from money, I cannot create money. And it's another one of those victim mindsets that we put ourselves in, right? And I know that this is something that you have helped me with so much as well. But what do you typically, like, what are the biggest money issues that you see, or money mindset issues that you see coming up with your community? Like, what are like the top 3, and how would you help them to solve those?
Okay. So yeah, first on the victim thing, I mean, Oprah didn't come from money, and look where she is now. So, so I mean, there is that. There's always an exception to whatever rule you think you've got in your head. But top 3 money mindset issues. I think a big one is a fear of kind of taking up space. So a fear of, selling, a fear of asserting yourself, and, asking for what you want, and being who you really are instead of who you think you need to be, and building the business that you want to build instead of the business you think will save you. And like really just not being afraid to take up some space in the world. Because we, especially as women, are taught from, just generations upon generations that women are to be seen and not heard. We're not business people. We're not good with money. We've been told we're, not good with this stuff, and that we should stay in the kitchen, and, all kinds of variations on this. And so with all of that generational conditioning, that society's conditioning, it's not easy to overcome that. And just, it's not a switch that you can just flip and say, okay, I feel fully comfortable being myself now. Like I wish it were that easy. And honestly, if I'm being truthful, the times when it is the easiest to make that switch is when something happens in your life. Like when you have a life event that makes you realize the true cost of not living authentically. And I hate that. It's so cliche, but not living as who you really are, and kind of faking your way through life and trying to be what other people want. Sometimes it takes a real kick in the butt. And, if you don't want the universe to turn your life upside down like that, then you got to start working on it actively, so that you're not just creating the shift as a knee-jerk reaction. But I would say the number 1 is probably that fear of taking up space, that fear of, people saying that she's gotten too big for her britches, and, who does she think she is? And I think the second one would be the victim mentality. Absolutely. Victim mentality takes a lot of different forms, and it feels really icky to say it. So a lot of people don't feel comfortable at first admitting that they're moving through life as a victim, because it sounds gross. I mean, it doesn't sound good. It feels gross to say it. So, some different forms that this can take is just generally feeling like you don't have any control over your emotions. Like, if people would stop doing this, then I would be able to do that. Or if people would start doing this, then I'd be able to do that. If I had more money, then I would be able to have, a better marriage, or I would be happier, or X, Y, Z. Basically placing the responsibility for their happiness anywhere other than on themselves. That victim mentality is, it's really sneaky, and your brain is really great at finding ways to justify why something is not your fault. And it's a process to overcome that. And let me see. Let's see, the third one, I'd say a fear of judgment, which is kind of like the fear of taking up space, but it's different enough that it merits its own category. The fear of being told that you're wrong, or being called names, or, the fear of just of people who don't have money judging you for having money, things like that. So you asked the way that I would help people through that. So let's see. The first one that I said was the fear of taking up space. The first thing that I would recommend you do is kind of write down everything that you're actually afraid will happen. And I think we actually did this during one of our first sessions, but you actually write out like, okay, let's just get all this out on paper, because when it's in your head, it feels really heavy and you're carrying it around. But when you put it out on paper, it's much easier to separate the thought from your mind, because you are not your thoughts. You are not your brain. You are not your thoughts. You are bigger than that. But your thoughts, it's just that we tend to let them run the show. So get those thoughts out on paper. So if you're afraid of taking up space, okay, I'm afraid people will think that I'm selfish. I'm afraid that people will think that I'm not a good mom, for example, because I'm choosing to have a career. I'm afraid that people will judge me for having a lot of money without working myself to the bone. I'm afraid that, X, Y, Z. Like, there's just, list out at least 20 reasons, because I guarantee some of them are going to sound ridiculous, but a lot of them are going to resonate and they're going to feel very true. So that's the first thing. And I really love using EFT tapping. If you're not familiar with it, just check it out on YouTube. There's like a million tutorial videos, but the EFT tapping is a really great way to help break some of the neural pathways in your brain and rewire them and take the emotional charge away from these thoughts. So let's say that you've got a thought, I'm afraid of making more money because it'll make my spouse jealous. That's a common one that I hear. They're afraid of outshining their spouse. So let's say you've got a lot of emotional charge around that. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like a solid 8 or 9, and it feels really scary to you to make more money than your spouse. So the first thing that I would do is have you, do EFT tapping while you're voicing your concerns, while you're voicing your fears. And what this does is it acknowledges your fears. Your brain just wants to be acknowledged. Your brain just wants to feel like you're taking this into consideration before you move forward. So, do the tapping while you're acknowledging these fears, and you'll find after a few minutes that, scale of 1 to 10 number that was an 8 or a 9, you'll notice that it's going down. That feeling doesn't feel so intense anymore. And you want to get it down to like a 2, ideally. You want to kind of keep tapping at it, keep peeling away the layers of that until it doesn't really feel like a big deal anymore. And then I have a 3-step, framework that I like to take people through. The first step is that release process of releasing all of those thoughts. The second step of it is reset. And that's where you go take a nap, you meditate, you do something, go take a shower, do something that just kind of calms your mind and allows you to just not really think about much for a few minutes. Doesn't have to be for a long time. Even just 5 minutes is plenty. Listen to a meditation audio, whatever. Just do something that calms your mind and allows you to just be in the present moment and in your body. And then the third step is that is reset. And that's where you reach for a new perspective. So on this thought that, I'm afraid to earn more money than my husband, you can reach for a new perspective like, well, my husband has a lot of respect for me. So he might feel a little bit threatened at first, but I think he'll agree that it's beneficial for both of us. And, if you genuinely believe that your relationship would be in jeopardy if you made more money, then maybe that's something to consider. Maybe that's something to, maybe it's worth us working through these relationship issues now before we have to deal with more money coming into the picture. And this is where a coach really comes in handy. So either Sarah or me or somebody else, but sometimes it's hard to find that higher perspective in a situation about a belief that really resonates when you're right in the middle of it. So journaling to find that perspective can really help, but you can usually find it easier and faster if you've got some outside help, because we're not invested in your situation. We're not invested in your limiting belief. Make sense?
Exactly. I love that. And I was actually just talking about how excited I am, or how excited I was to do this interview, because one of the ways, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Chelsey, but I totally believe that we kind of manifested each other in our relationship, because it was so interesting how it happened. I was talking to one of my business friends, and one day she was like, "Hey, do you believe in psychics?" And I got immediately really curious, and I was like, "Why?" Right? What are you talking about? And she's just like, "Well, one of my coaches just sent an email out saying that she's a psychic." And I was like, "I need to see this email. I'm super curious." So she forwarded me the email, and you had, you were kind of going through how you have all these intuitive abilities and you really want to use them and start using them in your business to help people even more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then at the bottom, you're kind of like, "I have 5 spots open for this beta program, apply here." And I was like, something in my head was just like, I need to apply for this program. And, it went from 0 to 100 in my head.
Yeah.
And then before I knew it, I was applying for this program, I filled everything out. I didn't fill out my name. And so then you went into your Facebook group and you're like, "Hey, who's this Sarah girl? Does anyone know her? I can totally help her." I wasn't even in your Facebook group. I was in your Facebook group. I wasn't in your email list. But my friend was. So then she was like, "Hey, I think Chelsey's trying to contact you." And I think it was in 24 to 48 hours, I had become your client. Right.
It was 24 hours. It was actually faster than that, because I had to shut down the offer early because the spots filled up. I had offered 6 spaces and I ended up getting 7. And I was just like, okay, I got to shut this down. It was really interesting. You were the first one, by the way. And your application came in first. So this is kind of proof, clients can find you, no matter where you are, no matter where they are.
Exactly.
If your energy is right around an offer, then, the spots will fill up. They have no choice. And it doesn't matter how big or small your audience is. I have a really small audience and you weren't even in that audience when I made this offer. So I put that offer out. I think it was a Saturday afternoon. I honestly wasn't really expecting anyone to really see the post until the week, but whatever. You filled out the application and I realized, I forgot to put a field for asking their name and email on the application. I didn't have your email, but maybe I had your name, but not your email or something. I didn't have a way to contact you. And so that was when I had to post in my group, hey, somebody filled out this application. You're a yoga teacher, and, just kind of said a couple of things. And yeah, you ended up messaging me and be like, "That's me." And then you signed up right away. And, so did the other 6 people. Within 24 hours, I had seven clients. And I was just like, okay, I need to just slow this down, because I don't want my schedule to be too overbearing. So, that's let that be proof for all of your audience. It doesn't, as long as your energy is right around something, it's so effortless to fill it up.
Yeah, I love that. And I talk so much to so many of my clients about that because like that is proof and it can be easy, right? And I think
Mhm.
that what really comes into this for me is how much that inner work is so important.
Absolutely. It's not important. It is the crux of everything. Like it's, if you try to struggle through this without, if you try to go through your business without prioritizing your mindset, you're going to have a very bad time. Like there's no two ways around it. And even like if you look at all the most successful entrepreneurs, they all have a rock solid mindset. They don't sweat the small stuff. They don't let, you know, life totally rock them off of their boat. They don't let this stuff change their focus. They don't let this stuff take their eye off the ball. They know where they're going, and they've developed that level of confidence and that level of self-assuredness that they need to stay on track with what they really want. And it's not about setting the goals and all that. Like, yes, that stuff comes into play, but that's kind of a manifestation of where your energy is. Like even setting the right goal, that's just a manifestation of where your energy is. I mean, for a long time, I didn't set any goals because I just felt so low energy that I was afraid, okay, well, if I don't want to set any goals because if I set one and don't make it, then I'll be upset at myself and disappointed. But once I started to feel really more confident in myself and not make it mean anything if I didn't make my goal, then I started feeling confident enough to set goals again. And whether I made them or not, I don't always meet my goals. I set really big goals. So a lot of the time I don't meet them, but that's okay because it just makes me shoot high. But once like the confidence had to come first before setting those goals, before putting offers out, before, writing content on social media or in emails or anything. Like it has to flow from a positive inner state, because what's going to happen if you try to navigate this business journey from, especially if you need money, like, oh my gosh, if you're navigating this business journey from a place of, I need this to work because I need the money, wipe the slime off of your content because it'll just ooze of desperation. And like, people can feel that. They don't want to be the first person to comment on a post that, where the energy is off. So then nobody comments. Like they don't want to be pounced on. They don't want, they can just feel that subconsciously, and they're not even able to put their finger on it most of the time, but they just know these things. Whereas if you start from a place of, I'm not doing this, like, yeah, maybe you need the money, but I'm doing this because it feels good and it feels exciting. And I feel so good that I get to do this. And I love helping people and I love serving clients and I love watching their breakthroughs and all of that. If you're doing it from that place, then you're going to come across much more genuine, and they're going to know that you really do have their best interest at heart instead of just trying to make some quick bucks.
I love that. And one of my favorite sayings for my clients and for my community, and what I'm constantly trying to really inspire my community to do, is just aim so much higher than what it is that you quote unquote need to survive. When I first start working with people, it always seems like, well, I just need this amount. If I just had this amount, I'd be able to pay my bills. I'd be able to do this and whatnot. And what that puts you in, it puts you in this like little box where then you're constantly trying to direct all of your energy and all of your attention around paying your bills and around, having your entire business in a way that's just going to allow you to get by financially. And what I find that happens in that moment is that people try to control it a lot more. The desperation comes in. Whereas if you aim ridiculously high and just give yourself this like phenomenal goal of even the money amount is just almost even irrelevant. It starts to become a lot funner, because then you don't have that control over that dollar amount anymore. It feels so much more freeing. And when I started doing that, when I started giving myself just like these really high income goals, it wasn't business felt so much more fun because all
Yeah.
of my needs were met at that point in time, right? All of
Yep.
my needs, all of my bills, all of that kind of stuff. I knew all of that was going to be paid, but then like everything started focusing so much more on the service and so much more on the manifesting part.
Yeah. Absolutely. It make it a fun process and a game, and just do it because it feels good, not because you need something to come of it. But and I know that sounds, if you're in a sticky financial situation, I know that can sound very, personal development, elitist, whatever, but it's true. And even when I was really struggling financially, I still had to learn to find that space. I still had to get out of my, old mindset of I need money, I need money, I need money, and start focusing on I love money because, and money is fun because, and, create a lighter energy around it. Because, if you want to stay stuck in a sticky financial situation that feels really sucky, well, by all means do it. But if you want to get out of it, then you have to make a conscious choice to not victimize yourself and not, stay stuck in icky money energy. It is a choice, and it's not always an easy one, but it is your choice. So the other day, I actually found myself getting really small picture thinking when it came to money. And so it's funny that we're talking about this. I found myself getting into that, and I was just like, wait a minute, let's just open this up again. And I started thinking about how fun it would be to just like have millions of dollars dumped on me, like just for no good reason, just like receiving just millions of dollars, and how fun that would be to just like do snow angels in it, and just, the type of house that I would want, and just daydreaming. And within 24 hours, I saw that, I don't know if you've seen this, you're in Canada too, so maybe you've seen this, but there's a woman in Alberta who has a $1.7 million house, and she is going to be, instead of selling it, because she's been having trouble selling it for that price, she is opening it up for $25 an entrance fee. Everyone writes a letter to her, and the most compelling story, she sells them the house for $25, basically.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I saw that within 24 hours, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm totally going to do that. And then, yesterday, my husband and I, we went out to the hot springs just on a whim, because we were like, you know what, we don't have any urgent work to do today. Let's just go have fun. And on the way there, we stopped to get gas, and I was at the gas station, and I was in a really good mood. And I said to the guy at the counter when I was paying, just like, you know what? I feel lucky. Give me a lottery ticket. And oh, this is even funnier. Actually, I just thought of this now. My card wouldn't work at the gas thing outside, at the pump outside. So I had to go in. That's funny. I had to actually go into the store to pay because for some reason it wasn't working at the pump. And so yeah, when I got to the counter and I saw like all the scratch tickets, I was like, you know what? When's the next draw? I don't even know any lottery stuff. I was like, just give me one for the next draw, quick picks. I'm feeling lucky. And so I got myself a lottery ticket. I think the draw is tomorrow or something, but just things like this, whether I win or not, it's just opening up my mind to the possibilities. That's two instances of 24 hours where I was inspired to situations that, could potentially lead to just literally millions of dollars being dumped on me. And so just open up your mind to see the possibility. And there's probably like a gazillion more type of these possibilities that would never even have occurred to me as being possible. So just whenever you find yourself in that really restrictive thinking, like, oh, I just need to find $2,000 in order to, pay my bills this month. Think bigger.
Exactly. I love that. And one thing that really kind of circled back to me for as well is this whole idea of focusing on being rather than doing. And so this is a huge thing that you taught me actually. And it was in one of our sessions, and I just had this like boom light bulb moment where I was just kind of like, holy shit, this is so true. Because you were just kind of like, I'm hearing a lot of you doing, I'm not hearing a lot of you being. And there is so much value and so much worth around the being and just allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to imagine, rather than being caught up in the, what do I need to write in my next email? What do I need to say in my next Facebook Live? What do I need to do in order to attract these clients? And it really transforms that conversation into, who's the person I need to be in order to be inspiring, in order to be that inspiration, and in order to be that transformational force that people are going to want to work with.
Yeah. You can give people step-by-step recipes all day long. Pinterest does it. Pinterest gives you unlimited numbers of step-by-step recipes. But how many people are actually doing it? How many people are actually taking what they're pinning on Pinterest and doing it? So that's just, a funny example, but the same thing goes in business. I mean, you can get a step-by-step blueprint anywhere for building a business, but most people aren't doing it because it's not who they are being. They are not being the CEO of a business. They're waiting for all of that doing to somehow accumulate into the being, but it's actually the opposite. The being has to accumulate and become the doing. The being, and what I mean by that is, starting with the small things like daydreaming about why you would love to have more clients, or why it would be fun to have more money, or make more sales on autopilot, or like why that would be really fun for you, and allow that to create energetic momentum until it creates that inspiration within you to like, oh, I could do this. Oh, this is so brilliant. I've never thought of this before. That'd be so fun. And you can't not do it. The doing is absolutely necessary, but we humans tend to put the cart before the horse, and we try to do when we're not doing from the place of being that CEO of the business. And that's why people go for years without getting, creating a consistent income, or even getting their first client for that matter. I've seen people go 2-3 years, excuse me, without even getting their first client because they're so stuck in that hamster wheel. And it's got to come from the being first, then the doing, or, the feminine first and then the masculine, if you want to look at it that way. Like, it's a lot of different philosophies and ways of looking at this. But the main thing is you have to get onto that energetic frequency first, allow the momentum to build, and then the action that you're inspired to do as a result of that momentum is the right action.
I think this is like the climax of everything, right? Like, focus on both. It's incredible. And I think this is actually also like a really nice way to end this amazing conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I was even going to ask you, like, let's, have a wrap-up question or something about how you can up-level your online business with your money mindset. But I think you pretty much took us through everything it is that you know and you teach, which is so amazing and so valuable for this entire community. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
Find you. What is everyone's next step that they can take to get even more amazing money mindset help for their businesses?
Okay, well, it depends on what floats your boat. So I do have a money mantras meditation, which is really unique because it's designed to actually get you in a receiving state before we start planting those money mindset seeds into your brain. So that you can get at leftbrainhippie.com/money-mantras. And if you are kind of just like, yeah, I just want more money mindset advice and inspiration and tools, then my Facebook group would be a really good place to go. I'm in there pretty much every day, and I give intuitive readings on Mondays. I do live streams on Thursdays. It's a really cool place, and it's just leftbrainedhippies.com. So leftbrainedhippie with an S at the end.com. And you'll find it there. It's the Money Mindset for Entrepreneurs group. And lastly, I've got a podcast as well. It's Money Mindset for Entrepreneurs. Since all of you are clearly podcast listeners, you might enjoy finding me there. And you can just find it on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever. Money Mindset for Entrepreneurs.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, Head over to sarahjlorero.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.